Hi everyone, welcome to Aquatics by Nature. As promised, this is a supercut version of the 3-part series I did on the plants I grow in this 28-year-old, low-tech, no water change, no fertiliser tank. For those who haven't seen the original 3 videos or would like more information on these plants, I'll put links in the description to the original videos. Anyway, so firstly I thought I'd come to what must be the most asked about plant in this actual tank, and that's the ruffled or crinkled onion, which is Crinum natans for those who like the names. This plant is actually one of my absolute originals. This was planted way back in 1995, so roughly 28 years ago, exactly in the spot where it is now. It's never been disturbed, it's literally just grown there ever since. It's what you might call rather well established. Anyway, on to today's third plant, Cryptocoryne wentii, which is sometimes called the water trumpet, but you generally find the long Latin name, I'm afraid, is the one that tends to be used. Again, this is one of the absolute originals that was planted back in 1995. It's probably the easiest and most adaptable carpeting plant that I know. It does spread a little bit slowly, kind of by runners, but if you leave it long enough, as you can see, it'll just colonise the entire tank. So anyway, on to the next one, Ambulia, Limnophilus sessiliflora. I guess for those of you who've watched my other videos, it's no great surprise to see this one. But those of you who haven't, I'll give you a quick rundown of this plant. Firstly, I absolutely love this plant. It's simply stunning. Those fabulous sort of feathery leaves, they'll brighten up any tank. And they're also a fantastic contrast to the cryptocorynes. They really make each other sort of stand out, so it's really excellent for that. Water lettuce, Pistostroes. This obviously is a floating plant, which I'm sure many of you are aware. It has these rather nice floating leaves, and it gives the tank a really nice sort of cover from the surface. And when you have lots of it on the surface like this, it actually gives the whole tank a kind of a green luster, which I kind of rather like. It's just makes it look extremely lush in that respect. But it also makes it look a bit like a sort of mystical forest with all those kind of roots hanging down. It's rather spectacular and rather attractive, I think. Najas guadalupensis, more commonly known as guppy grass. I'm sure many of you know this plant. It's such an incredibly adaptable and incredibly easy plant. It'll grow in most tanks, and it's just a really nice, easy plant. It's incredibly fast growing, like the water lettuce. In this tank, some of you probably have noticed that it's gone from just being a very limited amount of it in the centre of the tank to really quite a thicket of it in really quite a short space of time. The tiger lotus lily, Nymphaea lotus, which is sometimes referred to as Nymphaea zenkeri. Certainly if you've got an older book or what have you, it's likely to be that. I've had this plant around about 20 years. It was actually originally given to me by a friend, but I've had it ever since then. And for those who aren't familiar with this plant, it's actually a tropical water lily, the good old Amazon sword plant, Echinodorus grispaki blairi. This is undoubtedly the most well-known Echinodorus species, and I think probably deservedly so. In my experience, it's definitely the easiest sword plant to grow, so I think it has a place in most aquariums, to be perfectly honest. This particular plant is actually relatively new to this tank. Spiky moss, Taxophyllum spiky, similar basically to the common Java moss and the Christmas moss, and in fact is very often described as Christmas moss's bigger brother, which I think is actually quite a good description in actual fact. Some of you have probably come across this moss, as lots of the aquascapers tend to tie it or glue it onto pieces of wood or stone and things, and it can create some really fantastic effects. Next we come to suswasatang. Yes, there's a bit of a mouthful, I'm afraid, but it's actually lariopsis lineata, which is actually a species of fern which comes from Southeast Asia. As you can probably see, it doesn't really look much like a fern. This is because it's actually the prothalia, which is the juvenile form of a fern, which is before it actually produces the fern-like fronds that you're perhaps used to seeing. And lastly, we come to hydrocal tripara. I wasn't actually sure whether to include this one or not, but a few eagle-eyed viewers had asked about it, so I thought it was probably worthy to introduce it or include it at very least. If you'd like to know more about my naturally balanced, no water change unfertilised aquariums. I'd be eternally grateful if you'd subscribe and give me a like. And if you'd like to support this channel and help it reach more people, please share it as well. You can also check out my playlists, but most importantly, enjoy your aquarium. Don't be a slave to it. Thanks for watching.